Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we sift through all the sources, all the articles, and just the cultural noise to really distill what you need to know.
And today, wow, we are plunging headfirst into a controversy that feels, well, it feels meticulously manufactured.
It really does.
We're talking about the trailer for Emerald Fennell's new adaptation of Wuthering Heights. It's aggressively provocative, to put it mildly.
Yeah, aggressively is the word. I mean, it has literary critics just clutching their pearls while, movie executives are probably rubbing their hands together.
Exactly. And everything about this project, from the casting of Margotrobbie and jacobelordi to the anachronistic soundtrack, it all feels like a calculated move.
It's not just a trailer, is it? It's like a gauntlet being thrown down to anyone who thinks they know Emily Bronte's classic novel. And our sources are just overflowing with reviews, with the director's defenses, with, frankly, explosive fan discourse online.
So our mission for you is to cut through all of that noise, to get past the knee-jerk reactions. We're going to treat this trailer, this marketing artifact, as a piece of cultural strategy. Almost like the first act of the film itself.
Right, and we're going to try to separate the high-wire strategic genius from the genuine creative concerns that have caused so much of this online furor.
To do that, we're running this whole analysis through a pretty formal, structured 8-point review.
Okay, so what's the plan?
We're going to break down the trailer and all the discourse around it into 5 distinct points that honestly impress us. They show real strategic mastery. And then we'll follow that with 3 points that raise some, let's say, serious, creative, textual, or maybe even ethical concerns. It's the ultimate test, really. How do you modernize a text that's almost 180 years old?
It's a huge lift. And I think before we can even critique the trailer, we have to understand the foundations here. We need to unpack where this provocation is even coming from, starting with the director herself.
Absolutely. The auteur driving this whole thing.
Okay, so let's start there. We need to establish the brand, right? Because if you hear the name Emerald Fennell, you should not be thinking of like a stuffy, traditional period drama.
No, not at all. You should be thinking of a very specific cinematic signature, what we're calling the Fennellverse.
That's the key, isn't it? This isn't just another Wuthering Heights. It is being explicitly and very commercially marketed as the new Emerald Fennell film.
Right. And she won an Oscar for her debut, Promising Young Woman. A film that was, famous for that pastel, candy-coated aesthetic that was hiding this truly brutal revenge story underneath.
And then, of course, she gave us Saltburn.
Oh, Saltburn.
And Saltburn, for all of its polarizing reactions, it really cemented her reputation. She's known for mordant envelope pushing, for this kind of stylized depravity.
Yeah, she uses these hyper-stylized worlds to look at the really dark underbelly of obsession, of class, of social decay.
And we should probably acknowledge the team here, too. The creative team is consistent. This is not a director-for-hire situation.
Not at all. It's produced by Margotrobbie's company, Lucky Chap Entertainment. So you have Robbie, Tom Ackerley, Josie McNamara. They consistently back projects that are provocative, often female-centric, and always aggressively stylistic.
They did Barbie, which, subverted expectations on a massive, massive scale.
So when you hear that team is tackling Bronte, the expectation is immediately set. You just know we're about to see the definitive saltburnification of a literary classic.
And this context is so vital because it explains why Fennell feels, I think, entirely justified in her approach, her very aggressive, provocative approach.
Yeah, when she's discussed the film, she's really emphasized her personal, almost obsessive connection to the book. Yeah. This isn't some academic exercise for her. It feels like real passion.
She told the press she was obsessed with it. She said it had driven me mad since she first read it when she was a teenager, like 14.
And her reading of it is key. She doesn't see Wuthering Heights as this polite, sweeping romance. She sees the original text as inherently primal, sexual, illicit, and that reading dictates everything else.
And this is where she drops the hammer. This is her central defense, which I think is arguably the most brilliant strategic move of the whole project. She claims she's not just updating the text for fun.
What's she doing then?
She says she is restoring the novel's original shock effect for a modern, completely desensitized audience.
Okay, let's ground that in a bit of history, because it's a huge claim. When Wuthering Heights was published in 1847, it was not celebrated as a romance.
Not at all.
Critics at the time called it savage, indecent, and immoral. I mean, they were genuinely shocked by the brutality, the psychological violence, the sadism. It was revolutionary and, for them, terrifying.
And Fennell wants that terror back. She stated it very clearly. She said, there's an enormous amount of sadomasochism in this book. There's a reason people were deeply shocked by it.
So her argument implicitly is that for nearly 180 years, adaptations, from Laurence Olivier's very sanitized Heathcliff onward, they've domesticated the story.
Yeah, they've turned it into this sad, pretty love story. They stripped it of its radical, shocking core.
So her mission then is to take an audience in 2026, an audience that has seen everything, and make them feel the same level of transgression that an 1847 reader felt.
And if that requires using, modern, tonally abrasive elements like a synth pop soundtrack or hypersexualized imagery,
then it's justified. It's all in the service of being faithful to the effect of the text, even if it's not faithful to the letter.
It's such a clever framing. It really is. It allows her to introduce all these things that might seem totally inaccurate to the period, while at the same time claiming to be the most faithful adapter of Bronte's spirit.
And you can see that tension in the production details they've shared. She confirmed the film only focuses on the first half of the book, stopping right after Catherine's death.
Which is a common choice, to be fair. It avoids the whole complex second-generation plot.
It's common, but it also ensures the film is 100% focused on that intense, destructive obsession between Cathy and Heathcliff. Nothing else.
But what's fascinating to me is her insistence on fidelity in other ways. She said that an enormous amount of dialogue is verbatim.
Yeah, because in her words, I simply couldn't better it.
So you see the paradox so clearly, this deep reverence for Bronte's actual language, existing right alongside an aggressive translation of the themes into something hyper-modern.
It makes the trailer this fascinating psychological device. It's designed to appeal to, and at the same time enrage, both the literary purist and the modern moviegoer. It's strategic genius before the movie even begins.
Let's move right into our formal review of that strategy then, starting with the 5 points that impressed us the most. The things that show real technical brilliance and commercial mastery.
Okay, let's do it.
So impressive point 1, this is purely about the technical craft. The visual language we see in the trailer, it's absolutely sumptuous. It feels like the perfect, beautiful packaging for the film's brutal content.
The visual quality is just, it's undeniable. And that's a direct result of who they hired and the choices they made. The director of photography is Linus Sandgren.
An Oscar winner. He's collaborated with Fennell before, and he's known for major projects.
He specializes in creating this almost painterly visual look, and you can see it in every frame of the trailer. He's known for these lush, high-contrast, often really saturated color palettes that make everything feel incredibly cinematic.
You think of his work on films like La La Land or First Man, there's a scale and a texture to his images that it doesn't feel like normal filmmaking.
And the production choices they made are critical to getting that scale. They shot the film on 35mm VistaVision.
Okay, so for anyone who might not know the jargon, what does that mean exactly?
So VistaVision isn't your standard film stock. It uses a much wider negative than traditional 35mm. It actually runs the film horizontally through the camera instead of vertically.
And the effect of that is what?
It gives you incredible clarity, amazing texture, and this sense of scope and grandeur that, frankly, digital filmmaking often struggles to replicate. It's an expensive choice. It's a commitment to cinematic scale that immediately gives the film a kind of visual prestige.
And they anchored all of that in the reality of the setting, which I love. The sources confirm they shot on the actual famously atmospheric Yorkshire moors.
Specifically at the Arkengarthdale and Swaldale valleys, near Low Row. So the visual experience is rooted in the location's own brutal elegance.
We pulled one fan comment that I thought summed it up perfectly. They called the visuals blissfully aesthetically stunning.
And that's the camouflage, isn't it? The visual richness is the film's brilliant camouflage. It creates that elegant exterior we talked about. It promises a prestige picture, which is essential to make the brutal, obsessive content feel arresting, not just ugly.
The central paradox is right there on the screen. The setting is heaven, but the emotions are pure hell.
That visual elegance is astounding, but it's hiding something much deeper. And speaking of deep dissonance, nothing screams rupture like impressive point 2.
The soundtrack.
The sonic landscape, the audacious anachronism of the soundtrack.
This might be the most radical artistic decision of the entire project. It signals a definitive, intentional break from any idea of period realism. The trailer features a new synth pop track from Charli XCX, Chains of Love.
And this is not just a one-off. It's not just a stylistic flourish for the trailer. Charli XCX is confirmed to be providing a full 12-song original album for the film.
Wow.
That decision tells the audience immediately You are not watching a history lesson. You are watching a modern psychological interpretation.
And we have to define the significance of Charli XCX here. I mean, her brand is so deeply rooted in what critics call a brat sensibility.
What does that mean exactly?
It's a specific niche in pop culture that's hyper-aware, hyper-digital, often ironic, and it thrives on that high fashion/low culture clash. It's digital, it's aggressive, and it is undeniably now.
And to pair that sound, that aggressive contemporary digital sound, with 19th century Gothic romance, I mean, that is aesthetic dissonance on a massive scale.
It's a bit like what Sofia Coppola did with punk and new wave and Marie Antoinette,
but dialed up to 11. Yeah. The synth pop energy just demands this immediacy. It completely divorces the story from its historical confines and makes it speak directly to the experience of modern, useful obsession.
The genius of it is that Charli XCX herself gave us the thematic blueprint for the whole film's tone when she was discussing the music.
Right. She said she aimed for music that is simultaneously elegant and brutal.
Exactly. The elegant visuals, the brutal synth soundtrack, it perfectly encapsulates Fennell's entire approach to the material. It guarantees the film feels immediate and tonally jarring, which is the whole point.
Which brings us to impressive point 3, where we look at the pure commercial strategy, the undeniable star power, and the chemistry of the leads.
This film became an event film. The second Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi were cast.
Oh, absolutely. You're looking at two of the biggest, most relevant A-listers in the world right now. Robbie is post-Barbie. She's commercial gold and prestige talent all rolled into one.
And Elordi is the white it boy of the moment. He's fresh off Saltburn, massive hits like Euphoria. Their names alone guarantee a huge box office draw, regardless of the book it's based on.
And the trailer just capitalizes entirely on their cinematic currency, their intense physical chemistry. Our sources are highlighting the visual evidence, right? The lustful stares, the tight embraces.
And the fact that they somehow managed to make kneading dough look sexy, which is quite an achievement.
It's selling the idea of scorching, star-driven angst. And this commercial priority, it's really rooted in the business side of the deal. Warner Bros. Won the distribution rights in a really competitive bidding war.
That bidding war is so telling, isn't it?
It is. We know Netflix reportedly offered something like $150 million for the rights, wanting it as a streaming exclusive.
So why did Warner Bros. Win with a smaller $80 million offer?
Because they granted Fennell and Robbie the one thing that was non-negotiable: a wide, significant theatrical release and a huge marketing budget to go with it.
So that tells you right there, everyone involved is treating this like a commercial blockbuster, not some niche art house film.
They're prioritizing the massive commercial draw of the two leads and the controversy they generate over a safe streaming payday. And that's a crucial strategic win. It elevates the project's profile dramatically.
Okay, impressive point 4. This is the meta strategy around the whole release: the deliberate weaponization of controversy. Or, as critics are expertly calling it, rage bait marketing.
Rage bait. It's a cynical tool, but it is highly effective. It's when a project intentionally includes elements designed to generate viral outrage and discourse.
And that organic discussion, the fighting between fans and critics online, that translates directly into millions of dollars of free publicity.
And Fennell and her team have built an absolute machine for this. The most potent piece of evidence is the stylized title itself. The film is officially titled, in all caps, Wuthering Heights.
And crucially, with quotation marks around it.
Those quotation marks are doing some incredibly heavy lifting. Critics are absolutely right to interpret them as an autorial shield.
What do you mean by that, a shield?
Well, they don't just say, this is the book. They signal, this is a commentary on, a response to, an interpretation of Wuthering Heights.
So it preemptively reframes any criticism about not being faithful to the text as just missing the point.
Exactly. If a purist critic says, this doesn't look like my Wuthering Heights, the film's response is already built into the title. We know this is ours.
So it guarantees the film becomes a must-see cultural event, fueled by engagement from people who are excited and people who are furious.
Totally. And finally, impressive point 5. The specific, hypersexualized, high-impact imagery that makes the trailer instantly unforgettable and just generates immediate chatter.
If the point is to restore the novel's shock value, then the trailer has to deliver some specific promises of transgression.
And it does. The shots are unforgettable.
Yeah.
You have Jacob Elordi slowly licking a pink tufted wall, a bizarre, almost surreal act of sensuality.
And then you see Margot Robbie digging her fingertips into that same wall, which suggests frustration, confinement, this primal desire.
There's also that very close-up shot of Elordi's fingers being pushed suggestively into Kathy's mouth. These are not subtle nods to passion.
No, they're explicit, hypersexualized metaphors for their relationship, for the confinement, the shared obsession, the physical degradation of it all. The trailer promises a gothic, erotic, psychological drama, and it absolutely delivers on that promise.
And the dialogue they include is just as shocking. They use that famous line, "Kiss me and let us both be damned." It perfectly marries that high Gothic language with promised psychological depravity.
And crucially, the leaks from those unconfirmed test screenings just amplify this shock factor, whether they're true or not.
Exactly. The rumors suggest the film is aggressively provocative and tonally abrasive. And they say these detailed descriptions of horse-rein sex, suggestive egg yolks, and necrophile nuns, and a graphic execution scene.
Necrophile nuns?
Here's the strategic brilliance of those rumors. For the sake of the trailer, whether there are actually necrophile nuns in the final cut is irrelevant. The rumor itself confirms that the film is delivering on the trailer's promise of maximum transgression.
So the audience who loved the shock value of Saltburn will buy a ticket just to see how far Fennell goes with Bronte.
Precisely. So those are the 5 areas of strategic genius. The aesthetic craft, the radical sonic choices, the A-list casting, the intentional rage bait, and that memorable, hypersexualized imagery.
But, and this is a big but, genius marketing doesn't automatically mean the film is a guaranteed creative success.
Exactly. It's an incredibly high-wire act. And the higher you climb, the greater the fall if you misstep. So now we need to address the 3 points that raise some very serious creative, textual, and thematic concerns about this adaptation.
Let's turn to those now, the 3 points that genuinely worry us. And the first one is, without question, the most potent and difficult controversy surrounding the project: the whitewashing of Heathcliff.
This is where the adaptation faces its biggest hurdle, because the criticism is so deeply rooted in the text itself. In Emily Bronte's novel, Heathcliff's identity as an outsider isn't just a footnote.
No, it's the engine. It is the fundamental engine of the entire tragic revenge plot.
We have to ground this for you. The novel repeatedly and emphatically describes Heathcliff as dark-skinned. He's called a gypsy, a lascar, sometimes just a creature, to show how different and excluded he is.
Right. The general perception is that he has a Romany background or some other non-European ethnicity that just sets him apart from the landed gentry and their class structures.
And his status as racially and socially excluded as the other is precisely why he's abused by Hindley Earnshaw and treated as a lower class than Kathy. Mm-hmm. His entire motivation for revenge is predicated on the prejudice he faced because of his origins.
The novel is fundamentally a critique of 19th century classism and racism. It's right there at its core.
And the adaptation has cast Jacobelordi, a white it boy, the internet's most beloved boyfriend, as we call him, in the role.
And critics have rightly called this egregious whitewashing. They argue that it instantly conventionalizes the character and, more importantly, it defangs the social critique at the heart of the story.
If Heathcliff is just a handsome, jilted lover who's facing a bit of class distinction, you lose that entire foundational theme of systemic prejudice. You simplify a complex, devastating revenge story into just a love triangle. It undermines the whole thing.
And this brings us back to Fennell's defense, which, while it might be honest, it's deeply problematic in the context of this critique.
What does she say?
She cast Elordi not because he fit Bronte's description, but because he looked exactly like the illustration of Heathcliff on the first book that I read.
Wow. Just think about what that means strategically. She is adapting the romanticized pop culture memory of the character.
The image that has dominated adaptation history, which has frequently whitewashed the character for decades.
So she's adapting a misreading of the text, which is a very dangerous move when the original text's politics are so vital to its meaning.
And what makes this choice even more conspicuous, I think, is the decision to use what's known as race-blind casting for the supporting roles. You have Hong Chow, an incredible actor, as Nellie Dean, and Shazad Latif as Edgar Linton.
And that contrast just highlights the commercial pragmatism, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They were willing to be flexible with race for the supporting cast, which enriches the ensemble. But for the lead male role, the object of desire, they chose the most conventional, commercially viable white A-lister.
So critics argue that decision prioritizes box office appeal and a narrow romantic idea over the essential thematic core of the book.
Okay, our second non-impressive point. This relates to the age disparity, specifically casting Margot Robbie as Catherine Earnshaw.
Right. Catherine Earnshaw's actions, her impulsive choices, her dramatic declarations, her ultimate collapse, it all hinges on her teenage madness.
She's only 18 when she makes that catastrophic decision to marry Lytton, and she dies around age 19.
And Margot Robbie is 35. Now, the trailer does feature a younger actress, Charlotte Mellington, playing the young Catherine. But the adult portion of this story, the most intense psychological part, that requires Robbie to convey that youthful, volatile, almost immature, destructive energy.
And casting a mature A-list actress risks losing that crucial element of destructive youth.
The criticism here is pretty clear. They're sacrificing character fidelity for commercial star power. It makes Catherine's choices seem less like genuine teenage flyly and more like the conscious, mature malice of a woman who is twice her age.
And again, Fennell's defense just illuminates her priorities.
Yeah.
They're conceptual, not chronological. She said she wasn't casting for age, she was casting for power.
She argued that Robbie has an otherworldly power, a godlike power, that means people lose their minds. She suggested Robbie is the only actor who could get away with anything, just like Kathy believes she can.
So the focus is entirely on Kathy's magnetic, narcissistic power, her ability to bend everyone to her will.
Which definitively positions the film as a star vehicle. It's selling the Margot Robbie brand of magnetic, destructive energy rather than a strict character study committed to the nuances of useful pathology.
It's a pragmatic, commercial trade-off, but it does weaken the novel's commitment to that idea of youthful destruction and madness.
Which leads us directly to our third and final non-impressive point. The core marketing dissonance, which we are calling the central marketing lie.
And that lie is?
The trailer repeatedly and brazenly calls the film, without a hint of irony, the greatest love story of all time.
And that statement, which is designed purely for commercial reach, generates immediate vocal opposition from literally anyone who has ever read the book closely.
The universal critical and fan response is that this is just flat out incorrect. Wuthering Heights is unequivocally a revenge story, not a love story.
It's a profound, dark, sadomasochistic tragedy built on obsession, class resentment, and generational vengeance. The main pairing, Kathy and Heathcliff, they don't represent romance. They represent a soul-destroying mutual ownership that degrades everyone around them.
And the marketing department is fully aware of this contradiction. The central selling point is a commercial lie. It's designed to hook the massive mainstream audience looking for a steamy romance, while at the same time enraging the literary in-group.
And what better time to deploy this lie than with the announced release date?
The cynical timing of the February 13th, 2026 Valentine's Day release is the ultimate strategic provocation.
Of course.
They are forcing this brutal anti-romance, a story of mutual destruction and property damage, into the most commercial saccharine love story slot of the entire year.
The goal isn't to deliver a love story. The goal is to maximize public confusion and debate. The fact that critics and fans are posting quotes like, "the greatest love story of all time, I don't think I've read the same book," confirms that the friction is working exactly as intended.
It forces you to confront the contradiction. If this is a love story, what does that say about my idea of love?
Right. It forces a deeper engagement with the source material, even if that engagement is based on initial cynicism and rage. So the marketing lie is ultimately strategic, but it's creatively non-impressive, because it fundamentally misrepresents the genre and thematic depth of the classic text.
And that's the full analysis of our deep dive material. We've covered the 5 points of strategic mastery: the visual splendor, the sonic rupture, the A-list casting, the calculated rage bait, and the potent imagery.
And the 3 points of genuine textual concern: the whitewashing of Heathcliff, the age disparity of Kathy, and that cynical marketing lie.
So what's the synthesis here? What does this all boil down to?
I think the synthesis is that we are looking at an incredibly tense project. You have this masterful blend of aesthetic filmmaking, top-tier talent, and commercial strategy that is fundamentally at war with the original text's thematic core on race, on age, and on genre.
So what you're seeing in this trailer isn't just an attempt to adapt a novel faithfully. It's a highly polished, incredibly expensive discourse vacuum designed to generate the maximum amount of noise. Fennell isn't just an adapter, she's operating in this mode of, auteurist commentary.
That's a great way to put it. She's essentially adapting 2 things at once: the history of the novel's misreading as a romantic epic, and the effect of its original capacity to shock.
And she's using all the tools of modern pop culture, the A-list stars, the Charlie XCX soundtrack, the hypersexualized imagery, to deliver the same sense of visceral transgression that Emily Bronte did almost 2 centuries ago.
And this leads us to the provocative final thought we want to leave you with, especially since most of the current online conversation is focused on the perceived failures of this project.
Given the immense focus on those failures, the whitewashing, the age disparity, the genre misrepresentation, we have to ask.
In modern prestige cinema, is it more creatively valuable to be faithful to the nuanced textual core of a beloved text, or is the greater creative priority to be faithful to the text's original transformative capacity to cause shock?
And the fact that we are all having this passionate, highly detailed, and deeply conflicted conversation before the film has even hit theaters, fueled by rumors of necrophile nuns and arguments over the soundtrack.
That in itself is resounding proof that Emerald Fennell's primary strategy to make people feel passionately about Wuthering Heights again is already a resounding success.
It's going to be fascinating to see if the film actually delivers on that marketing promise.
It really is.
That's it for the deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored the calculated controversy of the Moors. We'll see you next time.